Right, this is video 5.6. We have talked a little bit about congruence this week during this chapter, just whether or not angles or sides are the same length. We're going to talk a little bit more about how to identify congruency and how to write that in your figures when you're drawing. So if two polygons are congruent, so we talked about within a single polygon, if the lines are congruent, we would say there's congruent angles or congruent sides. That's fine. Right, this section, what we're going to be talking really about is if we have two different shapes, whether or not they are congruent. So two polygons are going to be congruent if all of their sides are the same size, or their corresponding size, and their corresponding angles are congruent. So when you are writing a congruent statement, they have to be in the same order. So if you've got two shapes, the angles that are the same order, same size, have to be written in the same order every time. That's just the rule of congruency. Let me show you what I mean. So let's say we have these two triangles, and we're trying to say whether they are congruent or not congruent. So in order for them to be congruent, all of their corresponding sides have to be congruent, and all of their angles have to be congruent. So we would say these are corresponding sides, and we would know that they're congruent because they each have one line through it. This is the second side. They're congruent, and then this side is congruent. So those would be corresponding sides. They are just refers to how you match them up. So if those sides are congruent, then our angles have to be congruent as well. So if we were identifying this triangle ABC, and we were saying if you have triangle ABC, if we're going to say that it is congruent to triangle over here, they have to be in the same order. So you can't write the letters in the second triangle any order that you want. They have to be in the same order. So if vertices A is between the side with one line and the side between three lines, and it comes first, then the letter over here on the orange triangle that matches it has to go first as well. So that we would say triangle X, that has to be first because that corresponds to this one. All right. B is between the side with one line and the side with two lines, which means it corresponds with with Y. So since B was listed second, Y has to be listed second. Z corresponds to the angle between the 2 side and the 3. So Z corresponds with C, so it has to be third. They have to be written in the order of their corresponding vertices. So if it's ABC, then it has to be X, Y, I put C. Z. Now, if we had written that first one as BAC, then we would need to say that it corresponds with Y. Well, that's not a very good Y. Y, X, Z. Do you see? They have to be in the same order because B is associated with Y, A with X, and C with Z. So let's write a congruent statement for the pentagons. So you can see that I flipped my pentagon around so it's in opposite directions. So in order to see which one is which, we'll write the first one, and then so we'll write the first one, and then we have to write the second one. So let's figure out what corresponds to what. So angle A corresponds to, what is it congruent to? Whoops, that's the wrong symbol. It's an equal sign with a squiggly on top. Which angle is the same as angle A in the second one? It's J, right? So angle B is congruent to angle F. Angle C is congruent to angle G. Angle H is congruent to angle D. And then I flipped what I was doing here. So if we have angle D is congruent to angle H. And angle E is congruent to angle I. So when we write pentagon A, B, C, D, E, we would say it is congruent to, and they need to be in the same order. So if A goes first, then we have to write J, F, G, H, I, because they have to be in the same order. So using congruent relationships, we can find unknown values. So if we know that this quadrilateral is congruent to this quadrilateral, then we can find out different information. So if we're looking for x, we're looking for the value of the side over there. What we need to do is we need to figure out which one in the second quadrilateral it goes in between. Okay, so P is congruent to W, okay? So we know W is 70 degrees because those are congruent. Q is congruent to T, so they're both 75. R is congruent to U. We don't know what their value is, but we can find them pretty easily. S is congruent to V, so V is also 132 degrees. Okay, so the side that is between P and S is like the side that is in between W and V. Okay, so this side is congruent to this side. So we can solve for x in that case. So x plus 5 has to be equal to 12 because this side is equal to this side. All right, so we can solve for 12. We need to get our x all alone, so I'm going to subtract 5 from that side, which means I have to subtract 5 from that side. That gives me x is equal to 7. So that's finding x, so x is equal to 7. Y is right here. It's between W and T, which is between the side that is 70 to 75. So this side is congruent to this side. So we can set our 4y is equal to 24 because that's what they mean. It means that this side is equal to that side. So I can solve for y. I'll divide that 4 off of my y. My 4 and my y are multiplying, so I'm going to divide to get them apart. So I'll have y is equal to 8. Z is in this angle right here. We also know from our congruent relationship there that 6z is equal to 132. So to find z, I would need to divide that 6 off of my z. 132 divided by 6 is 22. So z is 22 degrees. So it may take you a little while to get the homework done tonight. Promise we'll do lots and lots of practice of this in class. So know that these two triangles are congruent, all right? And that you're going to need to find x, and you'll be finding y in your homework assignment. So set up your congruent triangles, figure out what corresponds to what, which should be pretty easy, especially since you can see this 60 degrees and this 60 degrees, so you know angle B is congruent to angle N. Now because this is 50 and that's 70, those are clearly not congruent, so we would say that this one is probably 50 degrees. So we could say that angle C is congruent to angle L, and angle A is congruent to angle M. From there you should be able to figure out what your x is and what your y is. Alright? Good luck on your assignment, and I will see you in class.